Vampire Academic, Chapter 7. A couple weeks passed after that, and I soon forgot about the nothing as life at the academic wrapped around me. The shock of our return had worn off a little, and we began to fall into a semi comfortable routine. My days revolved around church, lunchtime with Lisa, and whatever sort of social life I could scrap together outside of that. Denied any real free time. I don't have too hard a time staying out of the spotlight, although I did manage to steal a little attention here and there despite my noble speech to her about costing through the middle. I could not help it. I liked flirting, I liked groups, and I liked making smart ass comments in class. No, her new integral rule attached attention simply because it was so different than before we could left. Back when she could been so active with the royals, most people soon let that go, accepting the door Dragmarai Princess was spading off the social radar and content to run with Natalie and her group. Natalie's rambling still made me want to beat my head against a wall sometimes. But she was really nice, nicer than almost any of the other royals, and I enjoyed hanging around her most of the time. And just as Kirova had warned, I was indeed training and working out all the time. But as more time passed, my body stopped hitting me. My muscles grew tougher and my stamina increased. I still got my ass kicked in practice, but not quite as bad as I used to, which was something. The biggest toll now seems to be on my skin. Being outside in the cold, so much was scraping my face, and only Lisa's constant supply of skincare lotions kept me from being aged before my time. She could not do much for the blisters on my hands and feet. A routine also developed with Drummond and me. Manson had been right about him being antisocial. Drummond had not hang out much with the other guardians, though it was clear they all respected him, and the more I worked with him, the more I respected him too, though I don't really understand his training methods. They don't seem very bad, as we always started by stretching in the gym, and lately he could be sending me outside to run, braving the increasing cold Montana atom. 3 weeks after my return to academic, I walked into the gym before school one day and found him scrapped on a mat reading a Logius Lammer book someone had bought in the Portland CD player, and with that cheered me up at first. The song could coming from it did not. When Doves Cry by Prince. It was embarrassing to know the title, but one of our former homemates had been obsessed with the 80s. Wow, dream it, I said, tossing my bag on the floor. I realize this is actually a current hit in the Eastern Europe right now. But do you think we could maybe listen to something that was not recorded before I was born? Only his eyes flickered to me. The rest of his posture reminded the same. What does it matter to you? I'm the one who is going to be listening to it. You will be outside running. I made a face as I set my foot up on the one of the bars and stretching my hamstrings. All the things considered, Remus has a good nature tolerance of my stankiness. So long as I don't slack in my training, he don't mind my running commentary. Hey, I asked, moving on to the next set of stretches. What is with all the running anyway? I mean, I realize the importance of stamina and all that, but should not I be moving on something with a little hitting? They are still killing me in a group practice. Maybe you should hit harder, he replied dryly. I'm serious. Hard to tell the difference. He set the book down, but don't move from his sprawl. My job is to get you ready to defend the princess and fight dark rages, right? Yep. So tell me this. Suppose you manage to kidnap her again and take her off to the mall. While you are there, a Strigoi comes to you. What will you do? Depends on what stove you're in. He looked at me. Fine, I will stab him with a silver stick. Drummond sat up now, crossing his legs, long legs in one fluid motion. I still could not figure out how someone so tall could be so graceful. Oh, he raised his dark eyebrows. Do you have a silver stick? Do you even know how to use one? I dragged my eyes away from his body and scolded. Made with elementary magic, silver stakes were a guardian's deadliest weapon. Stabbing a strigoi through the heart with one meant instant death. The blades were also lethal to Moroi, so they were not given out lightly to non-voice. My classmates had just started training how to use them. I had been trained with a gun before, but no one could let me near a stake yet. Fortunately, there could be two other ways to kill a strigoi. Okay, I will cut his head off. Ignoring the fact that you have don't have a weapon to do that, how will you compensate for the fact that he may be a foot taller than you? I straightened up from the touching my toes, annoyed. Fine, then I will set him on the fire. Again, with what? Alright, I give up. You have already got the answer. You are just messing with me. I'm one at the mall and I see a streakoy. What do I do? He looked at me and don't blink. You run. I repressed the urge to throw something at him. When I finished my stretches, he told me he could run with me. That was first. Maybe running could give me some insights into his killer reputation. We set out on the chilly October evening. Being back on a vampiric schedule still felt weird to me. With school about to start in an hour, I expected the sun to be coming up, not down. But it was sinking on the western horizon, lighting up the snow-capped mountains with the orange glow. I don't really warm things up, and I soon felt the cold pierce my lungs as my need for oxygen deepened. We don't speak. He slowed his pace to match mine, so we stayed together. Something about that bothered me. I suddenly very much wanted his approval, so I picked up my pace, working my lungs and muscles harder. 12 laps around the track made 3 miles. We had 9 more to go. When we reached the third to last loop, a couple of other non boys passed by, preparing to go to the group practice. I could soon be as well. Seeing me, Manson cheered. Good form, Rose. I smiled and waved back. You're slowing down. Drummond snapped, jerking my gaze from the boys. The harshness in his voice startled me. Is this what your times are getting any faster? Is this why your times are not getting any faster? You're easily distracted? Embarrassed. I increased my speed once more, despite the fact that my body started screaming obsessions at me. We finished the 12 laps, and when he checked, he found we have shaved 2 minutes of my best time. Not bad, huh? I covered when we headed back inside the cool down stretches. Looks like I could get as far as limited before the Strigoi got me at the mall. Not sure how Lisa could do. If she was with you, she could be okay. I looked up in surprise. It was a real first real compliment he had paid me since I started training with him. His brown eyes watched me, both approving and amused, and that is when it happened. I felt like someone had shot me. Sharp and biting terror exploded in my body and in my head. Small razor of pains. My vision blurred, and for a moment I was not standing there. I was running down a flight of stairs, scared, and despite needing to get out of there, needing to find me. My vision cleared, leaving me back on the track and out of Lisa's head. Without a word to Dream I tore off, running as fast as I could towards the Mora Dome. It don't matter that I could just put my legs through a mini marathon. They ran hard and fast, like they were shiny and new. Distantly, I was aware of Dremet catching up to me, asking me what was wrong, but I could not answer him. I had one task and one alone: go to door room. Its looming, ivy covered form was just coming into view when Lisa met up with us. Her face streaked with tears. I came to jerking stop. My lungs started to burst. What is wrong? What happened? I demanded, clutching her arms, forcing her to look into my eyes. But she don't answer. She just flung her arms around me, sobbing in my chest. I held her that, stroking her sleeky silk hair, while I told her it was going to be all right, whatever it was. And honestly, I don't care what it was just then. She was here and she was safe, which was all that mattered. Dremet hovered over us, alert and ready for any threat. His body collided to attack. I felt safe with him beside us. A half an hour later, we were crammed inside Lisa's door room with three other guardians, Miss Kirova and Matron. This was the first time I could see Lisa's room. Natalie had indeed managed to get her as a roommate, and the two sides of the room were a study in contrast. Natalie's looked lived in, with pictures on the wall and a flirty bed sheets, bedspreads, and that was not Dorum issue. Lisa had a few possessions as I did, making her half noticeably bare. She did have one picture tapped on the wall, a picture taken from last Halloween when we were dressed up like fairies, complete with wings and glittering makeup. Seeing that picture and remembering how things used to be made a dull pain form in my chest. With all the excitements, no one seems to remember that I was not supposed to be in there outside of the hall. Other Moroi girls covered together, trying to figure out what was going on. Natalie pushed her way through them, wondering what was commotion in her room was. When she discovered it, she was came to a screeching halt. Shock and disgust showed almost everyone's face. As we started at Lisa's bed, there was a fox on the pillow. Its coat was reddish orange, tightened in white. It looked so soft and cuddly that it could not have been a pet, perhaps a cat, something you should hold in your arms and snuggle it. Aside from the fact that this throat has been slit, the insides of the throat looked pink and jelly like. Blood stained the soft coat and had run down into the yellow bedspread, forming a dark pool of the spread across the fabric. The fox eyes started up, gazed over with a sort of shocked look about them, like the fox could not believe it was happening. Nonsense built in my stomach, but I forced myself to keep looking. I could not afford to be squeamish. I could be killing Strigoi someday if I could not handle a fox. I could never survive major kills. What had happened to the fox was sick and twisted, obviously done by someone too fucked up for words. Lisa started at it, her face death pale, and took a few steps towards it. I had involuntarily reaching out. This gross act hit her hard, I know. Digging at her love of animals, she shoved with them and they loved her, while on our own she could often beg me for a pet, but I could always refuse and reminded her we could not take care of one when we might have to flee at a moment's notice. Plus, they hated me, so she contented herself with helping and patching up strays she found and making friends with the other people's pet like Oscar the cat. She could not patch with this fox up though. This there was no coming back of it, but I saw in her eyes she wanted to help it like she helped everything. I took her hand and steered her away, suddenly recalling a conversation from 2 years ago. What is that? Is it a crow? Too big. It's a raven. It's dead? Yeah, definitely dead. Don't touch it. She had not listened to me back then. I hoped she could now. It was still alive when I got back, Lisa. Lisa whispered to me, clutching my arms badly. Oh God, it was twitching. It must have suffered so much. I felt bile rise in my throat now. Under no circumstance could I throw up. Did you? No, I wanted to. I started to, then forget about it. I said sharply. It is stupid. Somebody's stupid joke. They will clean it up. Probably even give you a new room if you want. She turned to me, almost eyes wide. Rose, do you remember that one time? Stop it, I said. Forget about it. This is not the same thing. What if someone saw? What if someone knows? I tightened my grip on her arms, digging my nails into her attention to get her attention. She flinched. No, it is not the same. It has nothing to do with that. Do you hear me? I could feel both Natalie's and Rimit's eyes on us. It is going to be okay. Everything is going to be okay. Not looking like she believed me at all, Lisa nodded. Get this cleaned up. Kirova snapped at the matron and find out if anyone saw anything. Someone finally realized I was there and ordered Rumit to take me away. No matter how much I begged them to let me stay with Lisa, he walked me back to the non-voice door room. He don't speak until we were almost there. You know something? Something about what happened. Is this what you meant when you told Headmistress Kirova that Lisa was in danger? I don't know anything. It is just some sick joke. Do you even have any idea who could do it or why? I considered this before we could left. It could have been any member of people's. That was the way it was when we were popular. People loved you, people hated you. But now, Lisa had faded off at a certain extent. The only person who really and truly despised her was Mia. But Mia seems to fight her battles with words, not actions. And even if she did decided to do something more aggressive, why do this? She don't seems like the type. There was a million ways to get back to a person. No, I told him. No clue. Rose, if you know something, tell me. We were on the same side. We both want to protect her. This is serious. I spun around, taking my anger over the fox out of him. Yeah, it is serious. It is all serious, and you have me doing laps every day when I should be learning to fight and defend her. If you want to help her, then teach me something. Teach me how to fight. I already know how to run away. I don't realize until the moment how badly I did want to learn and how I wanted to prove myself to him, to Lisa, and to everyone else. The Fox incident had made me feel powerless, and I don't like it. I wanted to do something, anything. Dremet watched my outburst calmly, with no charges in his expressions. When I finished, he simply beckoned me forward like I had not said anything. Come on, you're late for our practice.